Γεια σας παιδιά μου, όμορφα, καλά. Καλώς ήρθατε σε ακόμα ένα CINE Chill. Αν δεν είδατε τα προηγούμενα, πιένετε εδώ να τα δείτε. Σήμερα πάμε λίγο πιο περιφερειακά των ταινιών. Εντάξει, πάμε λίγο στο pre-production και συγκεκριμένα στο costume design. Και πιο συγκεκριμένα στο costume design του Wolverine και του Deadpool. Και πιο συγκεκριμένα του Wolverine. Τέλος το είπα έτσι, ποιος είμαι. Θα πάμε μαζί με τον αγαπημένο Adam Savage, το Tested. Ας δεν τον ξέρετε, απλά ψάξετε τον. Είναι πάρα πολύ καλός άνθρωπος και ακόμα καλύτερος prop designer. Που ζω το κανάλι και κάνει έτσι one day builds, δηλαδή κάνει μια κατασκευή πολλά ωραία και ορίς τον σαν ένα μεγάλο βίντεο να κάνει το πράγμα. Επίσης γύβρεν εκείνους που έκαναν τη ιστορία του Wolverine, εντάξει, και θα μας τα πει όλα. Αλλά πριν ξεκινήσουμε, πρώτα απ' όλα, καφεδάκι, στην καλύτερη κούπα ever. Εντάξει, πολύ φαίνεται τώρα, αλλά δεν το φαίνεται καλύτερα. Όσοι ξέρουν, ξέρουν. Και στο καφεδάκι σας και ετοιμαστείτε να πάτε κάτω στα comments και να μου πείτε ήρθα. Και μετά θέλω να πάτε να κάνετε ένα subscribe και ένα like για να πείτε το αγαπημένο YouTube και το αλγόριθμο ότι αγαπάτε με. Όπως σας αγαπώ και εγώ και θα πει το YouTube, ok, πάρτε κι άλλο. Και ένα τελευταίο πράγμα που θέλω πολύ να το κάνετε. Εντάξει, θέλω να το κάνουμε σαν tradition. Θέλω κάθε φορά που να δείτε CINE Chill να κάνετε stories στο Instagram. Θέλω να τα βλέπω ρε κουμπάρι. Θέλω να δω εσένα, θέλω να σε δω εσένα με το καφεδάκι σου, στον καναπεδάκι σου και το λαπτοποδάκι σου. Να βλέπεις CINE Chill. Σε παρακαλώ, κάνε μου τη χάρη. Ξέρω να ζητώ πολλά, αλλά κάμε τα ρε φίλε μου, δηλαδή μ' αγαπάς. Πάμε να ξεκινήσουμε.
Hey everybody, Adam Savage here, and I'm in one of my favorite places in the world, the soft goods department upstairs at our friends at FBFX in London. And we're here talking to Ed and Bex about making this costume from one of the biggest movies last year, Deadpool Wolverine. Everyone, the fans were so excited about the introduction of the yellow suit. You guys, can you walk me through some of the iterations? I imagine there had to be a lot of back and forth getting this costume right.
Well, yeah, so we got a base concept design from Ryan at Marvel Studios, and we sort of worked from that. And
Το Ryan Reynolds που ήταν και παραγωγός,
made
Deadpool.
it all fit on Hugh, so we had the actor scanned,
Right.
and sort of had to mush all the ZBrush model to fit and work, and then slowly work through the pieces and make it print bits and cover them in different samples and different textures, and then see how it all sort of worked out.
Okay, but this ZBrush model has all this detail, and I see all this detail, but I also, like, it's one thing to draw that digitally and another to execute it physically. How many, I'm going to get to how many suits you guys made, but how many iterations did you go through to get to the final design buy-off?
So we did, there was two
Canvases.
main fittings that we did with Hugh in the States, I believe. And then we did a couple more at the studios, and then the camera test. And then each iteration there was a tweak and a line move just to.
Το θέμα είναι ότι πρέπει να φαίνεται όσο καλά φαίνεται στην πραγματικότητα, πρέπει να φαίνεται ακόμα καλύτερα στην κάμερα, γιατί για ταινία πρέπει να είναι πιο καλά στην ταινία από ό,τι στην πραγματικότητα.
As definite an idea of the musculature as possible.
Right.
And that's something that back and forth we
Yeah.
worked together, didn't we, to try and that initial concept from Marvel, try and get those proportions to fit onto Hugh's body.
Right.
And so that it reads in the way as it does in the concept on Hugh.
Όχι απλά
Not one-to-one. It doesn't
ο Hugh έκαμε γυμναστική για να χυμείς, αλλά έβαλαν το και έξτρα μυς για να φαίνεται πιο buffed λόγω της στολής, να φαίνονται πιο καλά οι μύες. Έχει έξτρα μύες η
There were a
στολή.
few things that changed. I mean, one of
Του
the
τον
biggest was the increase in musculature. You know, we added to the thighs a lot,
Yeah.
and we kept bringing the shoulder out. And obviously, every time we do that, all that needs to be
Repatterned.
yeah.
Αλλάσαν πολλά τους ώμους δηλαδή και κάθε φορά που αλλάσαν τους ώμους έπρεπε να...
The guys were like more muscle, bigger,
Oh,
and
those are huge changes to make.
yeah.
I mean, luckily, it meant that the majority of the typevest area that you were modelling up, it was more what changed. There were slight tweaks, weren't there? But it was more the surface details and these lines and how much we accentuated them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So you might get a perfect fitting for form, but it's not the right color.
Yeah, that totally could happen. They could easily change their mind about the colour. They do a camera test. It doesn't quite read as they wanted it to. So we've got the fabric dyed. There's a few different weights of fabric dyed to the same colour as well. So we can offer more breathability in some places, more structure in others, more compression.
So Hugh Jackman comes here and he puts this suit on. Did he have any notes for its movement and its comfort after he put it on?
The first fitting, we were like, well, we wanted to turn up with the first suit being pretty much mocked up in the yellow and the blue.
Yeah.
We were like, we wanted that impact of them seeing the colour, and everyone was in agreement. It's great to just address the colour straight away.
So you guys are as excited as the fans to see this executed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, ourselves, I think like
Wolverine in the Flash.
is a huge fan. Like everyone loves this guy.
We've all
been, it's and he wanted it to help him with his posture.
Σκεφτά φορές έτσι στολή, να πούμε.
Underneath it, it's quite cinched.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This is a costumer once told me that like old British naval uniforms held you in your attentive position, and I love that we're still doing this with costume.
And he was really happy with how that made him stand up like this initially. I mean, obviously with the character, he then does sort of hunch up. That is part of the character, then be more like that.
So then, if he buys off on it, does the stunt team also maybe have specific requirements for specific stunts regarding the costume?
Interesting. Δεν το σκεφτήκα.
I mean, so you'd have like softer elements, and obviously their proportions are different. So they had another set of.
Δηλαδή και οι stand doubles του Wolverine πρέπει να έχουν δική τους στολή, οπότε δικές τους αλλαγές, δικές τους παυτές, αλλά πρέπει να αλλάξουν τη στολή να μοιάζει με του Wolverine στο σώμα του stand double. Καταλάβεις τι να πω.
And then soft, and then the cowl was.
And there's some functionality things as well, like slightly different gussets and more stretch in certain places. But
Και έπρεπε να είναι functional για το stand double.
Action himself. He does a lot of it.
Σαν μοιάζει
His suit still
το ίδιο.
didn't follow the requirements that the stuntmen did as well.
Oh, nice.
So it's sort of like just because it's his suit, he was really involved with all the choreography, so it still had to work. And ultimately, he still had to be able to like really move. It's the shoulder movement, wasn't it? That was the main thing for all the stunts, making sure he can get that action of the claw and that motion that we see and read as his character.
I'm really curious about the cowl. I've been obsessed with this costume lately. I've been looking at people's versions of this, and I'm just curious how many versions of different spreads of these wings you went through.
Well, I mean, again, for each fitting, we showed up with a new cowl, with new shapes, trying out new mechanisms to stick it together.
Κάθε αλλαγή της στολής αλλάσαν και το mask.
The first few times were a little bit sort of like, oh, we're not quite sure, just little tabs of Velcro, and then sort of this one now it's just got like a row of magnets and some clips fastenings from the back of the car.
Are we able to pull it off?
Yeah, we can. So it's just two like fidlocks that pull that off like that.
Έφερε η φάτσα του.
Can I? I'm so happy right now. This is amazing. I really didn't think that's how it
Νόμιζα ήταν η φάτσα του βαρέ πίσω.
So that he can then, between takes, take it on and off.
How many of these suits did you make for production? Because they weathered it, they went through a lot.
They certainly did.
I believe it was 22 for production in the end.
Yes.
22 στολές.
Not counting promotional.
22 στολές, όχι αλλαγές. 22 στολές, γιατί τα κόφκεται, τα είχαν μπορεί σε μια σκηνή να είναι κομμένο, σε μια σκηνή να έχει χώματα, στέλνει να είναι καινούργια. 22 στολές. Και τους stuntmen.
The stunt is the principal stunt guy, so it kind of had to be treated like a principal suit.
So I'd love to talk about the footwear. It's often the most neglected part of cosplay, and these boots are absolutely gorgeous. Okay. I've spent a lot of time on the RPF looking at threads of sneaker patterns, trying to figure out what the superhero boots based was. Did you guys build these?
No, so those were actually made in Canada by a company called Jitterbug Boy.
카나다는 잡은
I've
wolverine.
made a lot of
shoe.
shoes and boots for a lot of the superhero films.
Got it.
So there was a back and forth between here and Canada of mainly we knew how we wanted this to align.
Right.
And a certain amount of gap below the black fabric had to be seen above the boot here.
Gotcha.
So we took a plan of all of this
Okay, I
and scanned
see.
it all, and then Jeff sent us
Però
one
να
pair of
φαίνεται
shoes.
και
We
το
checked
τρέμει
all
μου κάπου
the-
μαύρο, λάλη
because
κάτι
this
έτσι,
angle's
κατάλαβα.
changed slightly a couple of times
Right,
as well. So
right.
if this changed, then that changed. We had to inform Jeff of that.
Because the leg needed to interact with the boot
Right,
correctly.
And this would be late.
Άρα πρέπει να
process
είσαι
because
ενός
you only
αλλαγές,
were
είσαι
able
και
to
στολή, είσαι και
be
το...
satisfied with the color choices, right?
Yeah, but he did make a boot for each fitting,
Yes,
didn't he? So
yeah.
it is, he's had
Yeah.
a few goes, as many goes as
Yeah.
we had.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. The amazing thing as well is a lot of the toiles got used for random stunts. So there were a few like driving scenes where they just needed to have a tack vest that could be destroyed pretty quickly.
Right.
So we actually managed to use all our previous
Okay.
toiles in the film as like secondary background. Use it for 5 minutes for that particular
Phenomenal.
scene.
Okay, guys, because I know cosplayers are watching this, they want to build their own Wolverine costumes. Can you talk me through the components that make this up?
Layer one
Okay.
is the muscle suits. So I'd say your first step is to get your musculature right. So we make them as separate things. I know that
Yeah.
everyone may approach that differently, but that's just for hygiene purposes and washing, and just, you know, if the muscles change, then at least they're not integrated into the suit, and you
Exactly.
can still use the suit. You know,
Να πεις
that
είναι
sort of
δουλειά
thing.
τους.
So we've got the muscle suit. Then we have some trousers that underneath here they're on a vest.
Ah, so they come up under.
Underneath here, yeah.
Okay.
But all of this is integrated.
Yeah.
Φάση
and
suspenders, να
then-
μην ταράσει.
That's a real fly. It's not a fake fly.
Ευχαριστώ για το information.
And then the top here, it's a crop top that attaches to the trousers. So we've got a bit of tension between the two, but they're not
Άρα το
completely
παντελόνι είναι πάνω
attached, so
μέσω,
you've got a bit
εντιαλώνεται
more
πάνω
freedom of movement.
και
a
το
little bit.
to be able
από
to
πάνω
twist and
εγκοντών,
do all sort
δηλαδή
of that,
φάση
because otherwise, because if they're all
γενετήσιμο
fixed, it's
idea.
more challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, right.
And then the pauldrons are separate.
Πρέπει
components.
πολλά
yeah.
να μην νόσουμε
There
να
would
μην
probably be a
ταράσει,
fixing up there,
να
but
φαίνεται
we haven't put the
ολόσωμο.
pin in, but-
If you're going to put your you need to put your cowl on before your bolero if you're going to do that, because that has to tuck in there as
So
well.
into
Πρέπει να μπει η μάσκα πρώτα και ύστερα
Yeah.
το πάνω.
Well, that depends
So
on
he
if
has
you
to
want
spend a lot of
to
time wearing the cowl.
be. If you've got it on,
Yeah.
yes.
Πρέπει να φορείς συνέχεια το πράγμα,
And then the tack vest
τη μάσκα.
is the
Γιατί
last
ύστερα
garment.
δεν μπορεί να την ευκαλεί,
to go on.
αφού πρέπει να είναι που
And there's
κάτω
a
από
big
το...
back plate here.
Oh,
το
look at that.
σώμα.
I see how you built a lot of flexibility into the tack vest here.
Αυτό είναι πολλά cool
Yeah, so
πράγμα.
there's
Great.
full range of movement.
And
Well,
that
or
means
as
it's
much-
not, it doesn't turn him into a marionette.
Exactly, because every person who puts on one of these suits does that. That's one of the first.
Right.
It's one of the first motions that they do because they really want to check that they can have all of that underarm free to like
So-
raise their arms. And the gloves are quite fun as well, actually, because they have what we call the claw ports. Yeah.
I love
Um,
those, and they're soft.
Yeah, and then they're sort of designed to sort of roll into the claw, because the claw stopped at a point, and then we had to meet the claw.
So we made the glove the fingers are actually in a partially curved position.
Yeah.
Sort of semi-based on a diving glove, just because we knew his hands were going to be in a mainly claw position for most of the time.
Right.
So
right,
it made
right.
sense to sort of like try and make them as comfortable
Okay.
in that position as possible.
So and especially because it's a custom glove, it's going to be a little stiffer than a normal glove, and
Yeah, I mean these ones are actually from what is known as the Wunner, which is the long fight scene through the bus with all the Deadpools. So these are
Andy's glove.
actually a stunt glove that was used.
oh, they
To
look
death
in
on the day.
remarkably good shape
Yeah.
for having survived that. I see just a little bit of wear.
Yeah.
Guys, I really appreciate you walking me through this, and I know that it is such a group
Πολλά
effort.
πολλά
Please tell
interesting.
me who else we need to give credit to for the development and execution of this suit.
Ναι.
Obviously, the two visual development guys, Ryan Meinerding and Andy Park, there was a lot of
Μπράβο σας,
input
παιδιά.
in this build, and
Γράψατε εγώ τους κάθοδος στα comments, μπράβο.
Myas Rubio and Graham Churchyard.
Bravo
And
τους.
also, I imagine, executive producers Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Feige. as well.
Μπράβο τους Τζίνους.
Yeah.
It's magnificent. It is so beautiful. It is even more gorgeous in person. Thank you guys so much.
Αυτό ήταν το βίντεο, παιδιά μου. Ελπίζω σας άρεσε. Ξέρω δεν ήταν τόσο interesting όσο να βλέπουμε, ξέρω, actual πράγματα της ταινίας. Ήταν πιο περιφερειακό το topic. Αλλά πείτε μου κάτω στα comments αν έχετε κάποια άλλη ιδέα, κάποιο άλλο βίντεο που είδετε και προτιμάτε να το δούμε μαζί. Και ξανακάμετε ένα like και ένα subscribe για να πείτε το αλγόριθμο ότι αγαπάτε με. Και θα σας δω και άλλα CINE chill. Και θα σας δω στο επόμενο. Love you.